Hey, family, and welcome to the 5 W's that you need in less than 10 minutes. Now, listen, if this is your first time joining me, okay, I want you to know that we are currently in the book of Genesis. Now, we discussed chapter 4 last week, which we're going to do a recap before we get into chapter 5. But before we even do that, please like, share, and subscribe at jollystudios.com www.dollystudios@gmail.com. Okay. So now let's get into it. So let's talk about Genesis chapter 5, but let's do a recap on chapter 4. So now, you guys, chapter 4 is where we're talking about Adam and Eve, and of course, their sons, Cain and Abel. Now, we know that Cain unalived Abel, which is the first murder that happened ever. And then God allowed Cain to live, but he banished him from the Garden of Eden. And then Cain decided to make his own family and his own livelihood outside of Eden, where he created a family and children, and that's what ended up happening in chapter 4. So now we are going to be discussing what is in chapter 5. Now let me tell you, now usually what I do is I usually do the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, and why of the chapter. But for time's sake, just so you guys know, with this chapter is strictly, honestly, it is just strictly the genealogy of Adam. Okay? So it's very, very straightforward. There's not going to be any tricks or tips to this. This is the straight genealogy of Adam. Okay? So let's get going on it. So let's talk about Adam. Okay? Let's talk about Adam. Adam. Adam is the first man who was created by God. Now, you guys, it says in here, now I hope I have the numbers right, that Adam lived to be to live to be 930 years old. I don't even know what that even feels like. Okay, Adam was the father of humanity. He and Eve were the first to experience life outside of Eden after the fall. Okay, now their children at the time were Cain, Abel, Seth. And then, of course, they had some other sons and daughters. But we know that Abel was unalived by Cain. And then Seth became one of God's favorites. Okay. Then the legacy is the human race began with him, all other descendants from his line. So Adam is the father of all. Okay. All right. So let's get going. Let's get on to the next, which is Seth. Who is Seth? Seth is Adam's son. He's born after Abel's death. Okay. Seth lived to be 912 years old. He was seen as the replacement for Abel and the continuation of God's lineage. Okay. One of his children was Enosh, which we're going to discuss later, and other sons and daughters. The legacy is through Seth's line came Enosh, then eventually Noah, and ultimately Jesus, which would take you to Luke 3:38. Okay? Now, we're getting into the rest of these lineages. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Enosh or Enos. He is the son of Seth. Remember, Seth is the son of Adam and Eve. Okay, Enos lived to be 905 years old. His generation began to call on the name of the Lord, and that started in Genesis 4, 26, marking the revival of public worship. Mm-hmm. All right. His child was Kenan. He represents a turning point in spiritual awareness among early humans. All right. Now we're going to talk about his son, which is Kenan. And of course, Kenan is the son of Enos. Kenan lived to be 910 years old. He continued the righteous lineage. And his child was Mahalalel. I hope I pronounced that right. And his legacy is his name means possession or acquired one. Beautiful. Okay, let's go on to Kenan's let's go on next to Mahalalel, which is the son of Kenan. Remember? Mahalalel lived to be 895 years old. part of the fateful line of Noah. Because remember, Adam's lineage dates all the way to Noah, okay? And then Mahalalel's son is Jared. And then his Mahalalel's legacy is his name can mean praise of God. All right. So let's talk about Jared. Jared is the son of Mahalalel. Jared lived 962 years. Lived in the days of leading up to Enos's time. Enos's time. Okay, and his son is Enos. His name may mean descendant, possibly hinting at a spiritual decline or descendant of angels, as some traditions interpret. Okay, Enosh. I hope I'm saying that right. I hope I'm saying it right. Son of Jared, lived 365 years, much shorter than the others, notable for walking with God. Then he was no more because God took him. He did not die, but was taken directly by God. This is the young person he was in so much favor of God that he didn't die. God just took him. He just disappeared. If you want to know more about that story, get into your Bible. We might talk about it a little bit later on. Okay? Now let's talk about Methuselah. All right. Oh no, no, sorry. Enosh's child was Methuselah, and Enosh was the symbol of intimate fellowship with God in the model of faith. Sorry about that. Hebrews 11:5. Okay, then we got Methuselah, which is son of Enos. Methuselah lived to be 969 years old, the oldest person recorded in the Bible. Wow, and you always hear that name Methuselah. Notable for his name possibly meaning when he dies, it shall come, which some interpret as foreshadowing the flood. Okay, his child was Lamech, and his legacy is his death appears to coincide with the year of the flood. Whoa, that means he was here for a long time. All right, let's talk about Lamech. Lamech, son of Methuselah, not the same as Cain's descendant Lamech. So don't get them confused. This Lamech lived to be 777 years old, is the father of Noah, spoke a prophetic word about his son bringing comfort from the toil of cursed ground. Genesis 5:29. All right, and of course his child was Noah. The legacy is his hope in Noah shows the faith that God would bring a relief to humanity. And the last one of the night is Noah, which is the son of Lamech, would live to be 950 years old. Details given in later chapters. Notable for a righteous man chosen by God to build the ark and preserve life through the flood. And Noah's children were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. I hope I'm saying that right. Father of the post-flood world, a second beginning of humanity. That was the summary of the lineage of Adam to Noah. Woo! And look at that. We did that all under 10 minutes. Okay? So I told you this was actually a straightforward chapter. This time there was no frills. Okay, we started with Adam. Then we went with Seth. Then we started with Enos. Then Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enosh, Methuselah, Lamech, and then Noah. Ooh, wow. And that is the godly lineage of Adam. Wow. All right, you guys, that was a lot. That was a lot. But I wish it was more, but like I said, this is pretty straightforward, okay? So before we go, you guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Whew. And if you want to come back and see us when we're on here, please tap that little bell. I don't know what days we're on, what day we'll be on here next week, but we're always on here every week, okay? So please like, share, and subscribe, jollystudios@gmail.com, www.jollystudios.com. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we will be back next week. Love y'all. Bye-bye.